There are institutions operating in America today that are responsible for over 20,000 premature deaths, all in the name of profit. They make their money by housing vulnerable people and cutting costs wherever they can, often breaking the law in the process. These might sound like for-profit prisons, but I am actually talking about nursing homes. Although maybe that's no coincidence, because a lot of these places are owned and operated by the same people.
Every nursing home across the country. According to a recent survey, 87% of providers are facing staffing shortages.
You trust in nursing homes to take care of your loved ones, but 2 News investigates found several in our area have received below average rankings.
And exposed insulation in the bathroom.
Nobody should have to live like this.
If you are an investor with a lot of cash and good connections, aged living is an attractive business opportunity. The aging population means that you will have an ever-growing number of customers. Revenue can be sourced from insurance companies, individuals, and the government. And once you have residents in your homes, it's unlikely that they will ever check out until, well, they check out. According to research done by the National Bureau of Economic Research, elderly Americans are also less financially literate, which means they won't know if they are getting a good deal or not. The investment potential gets even better the more of these businesses you own, because overhead like administration, sales, and contracting can be shared across multiple locations. Consistent cash flow, a growing customer base, and synergies at scale has made nursing homes one of the most targeted alternative asset classes in America. Investors can now gain exposure to the aged care market through direct investment, private equity, and even exchange-listed real estate investment trusts that can be purchased by anybody with a Robinhood account and $90. But the reality of this business is razor-thin margins, distorted incentive structures, and a race to the bottom on quality and safety. Aged care is a broken business model that smart money investors need to squeeze incredibly hard to get any kind of returns for 3 reasons. And there are 3 terrible ways this squeezing is getting done. The first reason is that the profit does not come from looking after the elderly. The National Bureau of Economic Research published a report on the effect of private equity investments into nursing homes, which is one of the most damning things I have ever read. The only reason why it isn't getting more attention is because the report is 30,000 words long, so I have gone ahead and read it so you don't have to. The paper outlines the damage that the private equity business model has done to patient care, but before it even gets to that, it outlines just how broken the aged care business is. Not all senior living is made equal, and the business is operated off 3 classifications that have different requirements and qualify for different subsidies. The first classification is an independent living facility. These are for seniors who are largely independent but want to live in an environment where they have the community of other seniors, the convenience of having meals, transports, and social events organized for them, and the peace of mind of care facilities being close by if they need them. These kinds of facilities are common in lifestyle retirement states like Florida, and some of them offer luxurious accommodations and amenities to the residents. These aged care facilities are usually privately funded and operate not too differently from a gated community that only allows people above a certain age to live there. Investors in these kinds of facilities make their money by selling or leasing homes directly to residents, leasing commercial properties to businesses that want to operate within the facility, and from charging management fees on top of the fees to maintain grounds, organize activities, and upkeep amenities. Since residents pay out of their own pocket to live in these facilities, the operating companies can charge as much as people are able to pay. A luxury home at The Villages, the largest independent living facility in the country, is currently listed for just under $2.4 million. That is separate from the ongoing fees to stay in the community. More modest offerings for a smaller independent living facility run about $5,000 a month for combined rent and services fees on a 1-bedroom apartment. Most retirees fund their stay at these living facilities by selling their homes. So as homes have become more expensive, the prices of these facilities has kept up at almost exactly the same pace. Independent living is, in a way, an indirect way to profit both off the aging population and increasing home prices. So if you are waiting for an inheritance to finally own your own home, I'm sorry to tell you, but these guys are the first in line. Now, these facilities are made for people that are mentally and physically fit enough to live by themselves, so nobody is being forced into these homes. But it starts to get a lot worse at the next level up. Assisted living facilities provide more personal care than independent living facilities. Accommodations in these types of aged care establishments are much smaller than the regular apartments of freestanding homes in ILFs. Typically, they are single ensuite rooms that connect directly to communal facilities like food halls and on-site medical facilities. These homes support residents with daily activities like bathing, dressing, and medication management, but they still let their elderly clients maintain as much independence as possible with planned shopping trips, leaving to go to see friends and family, and even vacations if it's deemed appropriate. These types of facilities are still mostly paid out of pocket by residents, but since they are a blend of a home and a care facility, insurance companies will cover part or some of all of the fees to stay in these homes if the residents have coverage. In very rare cases, residents can also receive funding from Medicaid if it's determined that they need the support of one of these homes and they have no other way of paying for it. At this level of care, there are two problems that arise that lead to bad outcomes for both residents and staff. The first problem is that insurance providers have much more negotiating power on their pricing, so investors in these facilities can't increase their margins by charging more. Instead, they turn a profit by lowering their standards of care. The National Bureau of Economic Research study found that since for-profit assisted living facilities had no required staffing levels, the headcount of on-site nurses and nursing assistants fell to dangerous levels. The basic functions that these facilities report to offer to patients like bathing, regular medical checkups, and even providing food have been missed because of inadequate funding. A report by the Associated Press listed hundreds of incidents of residents in these facilities simply starving to death. Another report by the Washington Post found that just dozens of elderly patients in the care of these homes died after they simply walked away without being noticed by the skeleton staff running these homes. If a long history of deadly negligence wasn't bad enough, this business model gets even worse since a large share of these residents in these homes were placed there against their will. So it's time to learn how money works to find out just how broken the aged care industry is. This week's lesson is sponsored by Ground News. It's important for me to stay up to date on news to prepare for my videos, but it's hard to get the facts of a story nowadays because it seems like everything has some sort of political bias or opinion. Ground News helps you cut through those biases, and I feel like partnering with them is a duty to all of you. Their app and website gathers related articles from around the world in one place, so you can compare coverage, instead of just reading one source and believing it to be true. For example, they analyzed nearly 100 sources reporting on President Biden implementing nursing home staffing regulations for the first time ever. Up top, I get a summary of the issue from different perspectives, and it's interesting to see the opposition from the nursing home industry, which cites staffing shortages as one of the key challenges in meeting the new regulations. Down below, I can compare every article on the topic, including the White House press release with tags showing me the bias, reliability, and ownership of the source. And I can see most of the coverage is coming from center and left-leaning sources, creating a potential blind spot for readers that consume more right-leaning news. Ground News has an entire feed dedicated to stories like this that are receiving lopsided coverage, and it's interesting to see the types of stories that each side of the political spectrum tends to focus on. Getting access to multiple perspectives is key to making informed decisions, and it's why I love using Ground News. So go to ground.news/howmoneyworks to try it out. Sign up today for just $1 a month or use my link and you'll get 30% off their unlimited Vantage plan, the same one I use to see the full picture and cut through media bias. The aged care advocacy group My Elder recently published a story about Max Kaplan, an 80-year-old man who in 2011 went into a hospital to receive a minor surgical procedure, which led him to never seeing his home again. According to the report, the hospital told Max that for them to discharge him back to his home, he would have to agree to allow a social worker to visit his home and determine if it was safe for him to return. The social worker determined his own home was not good enough and put him into the custody of Adult Protective Services, which checked him into an assisted living facility to provide him with care that he was living without before his ill-fated hospital visit. Kaplan was later appointed a legal guardian by a New York court who sold his home and furniture, cashed out his retirement savings, and used the money in addition to his pension and Social Security to pay for his continued care in an assisted living facility. Kaplan is only allowed $50 a month of his own money to pay for incidentals. As of September 2023, when this article was published, Max is not allowed to leave the building for any reason. No one can sign him out, and his guardian was not responsive to requests for comment. Now, you might be thinking this sounds a lot like the movie I Care a Lot, something that sounds like an overdramatic work of fiction. But guardianship abuse happens all the time, especially to elders who have had a lifetime to amass assets worth siphoning off. With a literally captive market, assisted living facilities have very little business pressure to increase their quality of care, because the residents seldom have the ability to leave and find a better provider. The price of assisted living facilities has also grown as facilities have started to offer additional amenities, nicer food, bigger rooms, and more activities to residents that have better insurance coverage or money from retirement savings and home sales to pay out of pocket. These are mostly high-margin items that can be charged at a premium within assisted living facilities to increase revenue because residents have nowhere else to spend their money. It's easier and more lucrative for operators to upsell these services rather than charge more money for what is really needed, which is more staff. And that's the second reason why senior living care is a broken business. It's getting squeezed from all angles. In 2021, a group of Florida healthcare providers urged the FTC for assistance with anti-competitive pricing coming from staffing agencies. So the operators that have been accused of ripping off residents were themselves complaining about being ripped off by service providers. According to data from Salary.com, ZipRecruiter, and Indeed, the average salary for a full-time elderly caregiver here in California is between $12.34 and $18.27 an hour, or $28,000 to $39,000 a year. That is a terrible income for such a demanding job. So when demand for essential staff peaked during COVID-19, the companies that provided staff to facilities that didn't hire their own staff started charging more, which made it unprofitable to run assisted living facilities. Insurance companies won't pay more, Medicaid has a fixed reimbursement that hasn't been adjusted to keep up with inflation, and facilities are already milking as much as they can out of residents with means to pay for additional services. That's why a survey conducted by the Florida Healthcare Association found that 59% of assisted living facilities were operating at a loss or negative total margin. And if you thought that was bad, then it only gets worse for the third type of aged care facility. Skilled nursing facilities offer the highest level of care to residents with serious health conditions that require constant supervision. These homes are a blend of living accommodations and a hospital, and are funded through fixed Medicare payments or health insurance. Some of the largest aged care communities in America will have independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing facilities all on a single property, so residents can move between them as their need for care increases as they age. Normally, residents don't spend very long in skilled nursing facilities before they are either moved back to assisted living if their health improves, or the morgue if it doesn't. The regulatory requirements around minimum staffing to run these facilities is very high, but revenue is even lower since by the time most of the population gets to a skilled nursing facility, they don't have any personal assets or insurance coverage left, so providers have to make do with Medicaid, which isn't enough. Since most providers are still run for profit, it's taken some very creative business practices to get money out of these facilities, which is the third reason why everything about aged care has gotten so bad. There is still a lot of money in aged care. It's just not in the operating homes. The National Bureau of Economics research paper outlined one highly controversial practice that private equity firms have been using to extract business value out of all three types of these facilities. Private equity funds are motivated by capital gains, so if they can acquire a struggling aged care company and turn it around, they can make large profits. And even if they can't turn it around, they still have some tricks up their sleeves. So if you're a cunning private equity manager who wants to cash in on the misery, here is what you have to do. You need to find a nursing home that is struggling with profitability, but still has a strong asset base. Some nursing homes own their own facilities, and these are a great target. Since the company is barely profitable, you should be able to buy it for not very much money. And once you can take ownership, immediately sell whatever assets you can and then lease them back to the companies you sold them from. The aged care real estate investment trusts that you can buy on a public market get most of their properties from buying and leasing back properties like this. With this pile of new cash, you can pay back your firm a good amount of the money that they spent on the acquisition in the first place. After this, you should buy more properties and then use your market dominance to drive down expenses wherever you can and squeeze out a profit. Once you have made a profit, you can use this to get the aged care facility to take out a loan and then use that money to pay back your firm even more. The ongoing expenses of aged care facilities are now strained by rent and loan repayments, but even if they end up bankrupt, your firm still has made most of its money back. Leveraged buyouts like this have been responsible for 20,000 premature deaths in facilities across the country as the quality of service is slashed in the name of turning a profit. But without the liquidity provided by private equity, there would probably be an even bigger shortage of aged care providers. Private equity isn't moving into aged care because it's a great business. They are moving in because it's a struggling business. Other firms have found that there is more profit in buying up companies that provide third-party services to these homes. In 2018, HIG Capital acquired Reliant Rehabilitation, one of the largest providers of contract healthcare services in America, providing nursing staff on a contract basis to hundreds of assisted living and skilled nursing facilities across the country. This complemented their portfolio nicely, as they were able to share administrative overhead with WellPath, another healthcare service provider they acquired in 2013 that provides the same services to private prisons. I have worked for nearly half a decade in investment banking in the healthcare sector, putting these kinds of deals together. They don't always have to have such bad outcomes. But with such vulnerable people right in the middle of conflicting corporate interests, they are usually the first group to be compromised. I'm going to write an op-ed from my own experience in what separates bad deals from good deals in this space over on my completely free email newsletter Compounded Daily, so make sure to sign up at the link below if you are interested in reading that. If you want to start your own private equity fund to start profiting off broken business models like this yourself, then go watch my in-depth video covering what these businesses actually do to keep on learning how money works.